Hey everyone, today's video is a little different. With the Switch 2 now officially out, I wanted to take a moment to look back on the original Nintendo Switch. Not just as a console, but as something that was a big part of my life for the past 8 years. From its first reveal in October 2016 to its launch on March 3rd, 2017, and everything in between. This is my way of saying goodbye to a console that meant a lot. The Switch was a turning point for Nintendo. After the Wii U struggled, this hybrid idea just worked. I remember the reveal trailer on October 2016 like it was yesterday. The rooftop party, the detachable Joy-Cons, it felt futuristic, and I had pre-ordered back in October 2016. I think before anyone else pre-ordered, because I was that eager to get the Nintendo Switch. By January 13, 2017, we got the full reveal event with Breath of the Wild as the main attraction, and it just took off from there. With like Splatoon 2, No More Heroes 3. I remember that being a big note there. Mario Odyssey, I believe, is there. And quite a lot of first year games were there as well. Like first party titles. And second party, or third party exclusives. And then E3 rolled around later that year. Which was actually pretty good. They actually announced a Pokemon RPG. No, according to EV Games, it was not Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. It was Pokemon Sword and Shield that they announced. But yeah, and then it also got announced that Metroid Prime 4 was coming, which was good. But yeah, that was 2017. So I have a launch day memory. I know it was only like, if I can remember correctly, 3 or 4 games that released at launch. Zelda, Breath of the Wild, obviously, which also launched on Wii U, same day. But it had an exclusive Nintendo Switch shirt, which I believe was also in the Wii U game, but it felt weird. Or something like that. And then you had Skylanders. And then you had Super Bomberman R. And 1-2 Switch. I had 1-2 Switch and Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild at launch. Our first ever Legend of Zelda game. My first ever Legend of Zelda game. And it was amazing. I could never get into Tears of the Kingdom though. I just could not get into Tears of the Kingdom. But it was a perfect game to open up a Nintendo launch. And the first Nintendo console to not have a Mario launch title. To not have Mario be the launch title. Which the Switch 2 does have Mario Kart. Well, interesting. I guess I thought of that. Um, so looking at it, you had 2017 there was a lot of first-party titles and quite a bit of third-party support, which the Wii U never had. And I launched in March so that they could get games out, a big library out before holiday. Remember the Wii U when it launched, November 2012. It only had we only had the launch titles from November, plus whatever game, the few games that came out in between, which I don't think there were many. But the Switch launched March and it had quite a lot of games in the first year. And in fact, over the course of its years, it's had 12,341 games. Literally, 12,341 games. And a couple of key years in games from those years. So I'll mention a few. 2017 was Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Splatoon 2, ARMS. Can't forget ARMS, the game that released after literally the week of E3. They did a demo, like a test demo thing at E3, launched later that week, and it came with 2 neon yellow Joy-Cons. The first new pair of coloured Joy-Cons. The first new colours for the Joy-Cons, which I had. Didn't get them at launch though, I don't think, but I had them. Then in 2019 you had Pokemon. So 2018 was Pokemon Let's Go, Pikachu and Eevee. And you also had quite a few Wii U ports like Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, Pokemon Tournament. It was 2018, I believe. But the Switch version got DLC, so it was a lot better. But I didn't come with this Shadow Mewtwo card. Amiibo card. It sucks. But you also had yes, 2017 was also Puyo Puyo Tetris. The first time Puyo Puyo Tetris came outside of Japan. And it was exclusive to the Switch, as far as I know. We had Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, a port of that, and Yoshi's Crafted World in 2018. No, Yoshi's Crafted World was 2019. Not bad. Then you had 2019 with games like Astral Chain and Final Fantasy. Sorry, not Final Fantasy, that was later on. Although Pocket 15 did come to Switch, I don't remember when. But you also had Pokemon, the first proper mainline Pokemon game, Sword and Shield, Gen 8, sorry. And then every year since you had a Pokemon game on there, or Pokemon DLC. And Pokemon Sword and Shield were the first games to consist to have DLC, which released in 2020. You can also look at Animal Crossing for 2020. Because Animal Crossing sold very well, and it was because of the pandemic that Animal Crossing did well, considering. And the and they just kept releasing games like Mario Party, the multiple Mario parties, Donkey Kong Country, whatever the new one was. They came out this year. Not the new one. The port of the Wii game. It was a port of the 3DS game, but it's a mix between the two because it mixes some stuff from the 3DS game, but you know, and the two Mario, well, no, Mario Maker. And the port of Mario 3D World of Bowser's Fury. You also had the Mario Collection, 3D Collection, 3D All Stars. There were so many Mario games. Luigi's Mansion 2 and 3 and 2 in the correct order that it released. You had a new Paper Mario plus a port of the GameCube Paper Mario. You had a lot of ports of games to get people into those games, like Paper Mario, Thousand Year Door, Mario RPG, Luigi's Mansion 2, both the Donkey Kong countries. Captain Toad, Treasure Tracker. And it had games that were supposed to be released for the DS or previous Nintendo consoles, like Metroid Dread, which was shelved and actually released on the Switch. And just so many ports and stuff like that. Literally, the Switch is their passion project for Mario, Zelda, because you had the first ever Zelda game you can play as actual Zelda. Finally, Zelda's the main character in Zelda. Not Link, Zelda. And you had the biggest ever Smash game released on there. You had all these different games that were released on the Switch. And that's how it lasted. And the highest selling game I know of on the Switch was Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. As far as I know, the quickest and highest selling launch of a game on the Switch was Scarlet and Violet. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. But you can go fact check that if you want. But that's what I've heard. And it's the biggest launch for Pokemon title. So yeah. So here's a look back at some of my personal favourite games I played on the Switch. The ones that really stuck with me. Literally Mario Odyssey, Splatoon 2 and 3, Mario 3D World Bowser's Fury. Bowser's Fury was really good. Yeah, that was that Bowser's Fury with 3D All Stars? Was that? No, yes, it was. Mario Maker, when it released, I got out of Mario Maker 2, but it was good. The Pokemon games, did I say Pokemon? All of the Pokemon games are so good on the Switch. Even, I'm trying to think, not Mario, Shining Pearl and Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl were also good, so I had to think. But the Pokemon games are just amazing on the Switch. Finally, home console versions of Pokemon. Plus the multiple spin-offs like Mystery Dungeon and Pokemon Snap. Brilliant graphics. Definitely brilliant graphics, but not so good of a game in my opinion. You had Pokemon Unite, Pokemon that stupid block game. Not Pokemon Cafe, yeah. You also had that one where your Pokemon were like blocks sort of thing, and yeah. Pokemon Quest, I think it was. I'll just double check. Yeah, Pokemon Quest. You had the start of Legends, a new Pokemon game series that is a main series title, but also revisiting old regions and looking at laws where it's not like a remake, but it's expanding the lore of those games in a new way. Pokemon really flourished on the Switch, I must admit. I really must admit, Pokemon did flourish on the Switch. And you had Pokemon Tournament with DLC that the arcade game never got. The arcade game never got some of the DLC. So yeah. Never got the DLC, so yeah. Although that game is dead now. It was good for its time when it released. Yeah. All the Lego games, plus old Lego games coming over, like Marvel Super Heroes 1 and the Harry Potter collection, and so on. Just a lot of all the Lego games basically came across, except for Lego Movie, Lego Batman. Aside from DC Supervillains, that was on there. Yeah. And 2K made the game, Lego 2K Drive. And that was a code in the box. You had Final Fantasy 1 through 12 on there, plus a portable version of 15. The mobile port of 15. By the way. So the Pocket Edition, I believe it was, or whatever it was. You had Minecraft, of course. Well, not just any Minecraft. You had the console version of Minecraft, plus the Bedrock Edition, which you got for free. Or, yeah, Bedrock, I believe it was. It was just things, but which was free if you had the original version, the console version of Minecraft for Nintendo Switch. You also had so many other games that released, but I must say my favourite ones, Pokemon, all the Pokemon games, Mario Odyssey, Splatoon 2 and 3. I do remember ARMS, Smash Ultimate. ARMS is really good. Died very quickly, but it was a really good game. Sadly, I wish it actually went further. It was the Switch actually opened me up to Zelda. I'd never played a Zelda. Well, no, literally, I'd never played a Zelda game before. Well, aside from Link's crossbow training, and Legend of Zelda part of Nintendo Land. I'd never played that is a lie. I did play Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD, but I didn't get too far into it. But Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild really opened me up to Legend of Zelda. Mario Maker I liked, because I got the edition with the stylus. I remember Big Brain Academy that was launched on the Switch. Did I like it? Not really, but it sticks with me. I do need to create a list at some point of all the games I liked. Pikmin 4. Yes, Pikmin 4 is a good game. So is Pikmin 3 Deluxe, but because it added content to it. But Pikmin 4, fuck yes. But they changed the game a bit too much. A little bit too much. But it works. You've also got... there's so many games on the Switch too that I loved. Oh yeah, my first ever Fire Emblem game. Fire Emblem Engage. Such a good game. Such a good game. I just remembered that. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe I enjoyed. For a little bit when it came out. For fun. Just so many games in there. Over 12,000 games. Just over 12,000 games on the console. There's just way too many to list that I enjoyed over the years. Literally. And honestly, I probably spent thousands of hours playing with this thing, with the Switch, with all my favorite games, and showcasing and doing let's plays and all that on all my channels, on YouTube and that. It's just, the Switch 2 is such a good Switch 1 is such a good console. Like, I'm glad that they kept the Switch 2 the same, and that you can play 12,100 games. Because there's 200 that aren't working, that they're checking out why they can't load them. But I'm glad that you can play 1,000, so 12,000 games, 12,100 games so far. This will be updating. On the Switch 2, they were on the Switch 1. That is amazing. That is completely amazing. Let me continue. Whether I was playing solo, streaming games, or just chilling, it's kind of weird saying, basically, saying goodbye to the Switch 2. Switch 1. Saying goodbye to the Switch 1. Honestly. For, from the Switch launch day model. Then the version 2 that came out later that year. With the Mario Odyssey bundle. Then the Switch Lite that came out the following year. Which then all consoles were Switch. The launch Switch, but not the launch Switch, but the version 2 of the base model. In the red box Switch. Which I actually didn't get one of the version 2. I got the launch model. And I did warn people. Whoops. And I did warn people not to get the Switch Lite because you couldn't access certain games on it. Because you couldn't play docked, and it was the Switch has taken away what the Switch name was for, which was switching between docked and handheld mode. Switch Lite was just handheld, but I get why people bought it now. I understand why people bought it, and I see Switch Lite as something that would be more affordable for people to get into the Switch ecosystem. And then the Switch OLED, which I've got now, it's, you know, it was the console that started basically it basically helped out with me through a lot. And I'm not saying goodbye. I still have the Switch 1, but my content will move on to Switch 2. And it's a new era. And as I said, it's basically the Switch 2 is a new era of gaming. But the Switch 1 helped me. It even made me an amiibo collector. Literally, I've got so many amiibo. I've got so many amiibo. And as I said, the Switch 1, that's what really kicked off my channel. The previous channel I had that I got back this year, that's what really kicked it off. When I started out, it was like playing random games on the Wii U, maybe some PS4. Never really sank myself into the Switch, so into streaming and gaming in that. And then in 2016, got a capture card so I could play Wii U and PS4 games on here. And then on YouTube, and then I got a 3DS capture card, which I don't have anymore. No, I got rid of the 3DS. I probably should have kept it, but you know, I got rid of it. And you can no longer get the capture kits for it. So there's that. And then you got the Switch, and then the Switch came out, and I played it from launch day, and that blew up my channels, and that made me made me decide what my content was gonna be forever on YouTube, and that was gaming. And since then, the Switch has been there all the way through my YouTube channel since it launched. So the Switch 1 actually means a lot to me. literally. And as I said, I'm not saying goodbye to the Switch 1. I'm saying goodbye to the Switch 1 era. Because now everything will be Switch 2. And it's like, it's like the passing of the torch, in a sense. Like, I'm passing, the Switch 1 is passing the torch to the Switch 2 to take over. It's not like, for instance, how to put it? The 3DS came out and then the Wii U came out, in a sense, without both being supported. I know the Switch 1 will still be supported, but it's like passing on the torch to a new generation with new games. And yes, I am a Nintendo fanboy. And I'll always be a Joy-Con boy at heart. If anyone knows that, what that is. But yeah. Anyway. Now with the Switch 2 coming out, it's definitely exciting, but it's also the end of an era, as like you said. It's like passing the torch. Switch 1 has been with me through a lot. And helped me out with a lot as well. The Switch 1, it's like, I'm not getting rid of it, but also, it's like passing on the torch to someone else, as I said. It's like going on to something better. The next era of Nintendo, and it's just, yeah. Never really had that thought before about any other console launch. But as I said, Nintendo's been a big part of my channel, and I'm excited to see what the Nintendo Switch 2 era brings. But I just really want, well, not so much miss the Switch 1 era, but you can definitely already tell the Switch 2 era is here. And I can't wait. I'm excited for the Switch 2, but I'm gonna miss the Switch 1 era, if you get what I mean. The Switch had a crazy long one, and it feels right to celebrate it before moving on. It really does. As I said, it's been very amazing. When the Switch came out, I didn't think it would sell. Sorry, when the Switch was announced, I didn't think it would do as well as it did. I thought it would be like the Wii U. Honestly. I thought, yeah, we'll get first party games. We won't get many third party games. And honestly, I don't know how many it's sold right now, but it's literally right behind the PS2 in sales. That's how good the past 8 years the Switch 1 have been. Switch 2 have already broken sales records. 2.2 million. The latest figures at the time of recording. 2.2 million Switch 2 consoles pre-ordered. Applications for pre-orders in Japan alone. And they're already putting out that they can't fill that. That the public can't fill it in Japan. So that's actually pretty good. But yeah, Switch 1 will always have a place in my heart. And literally the Switch 1 was the first console I bought with my own money. First midnight launch for console I've been to. So many midnight launches for games that were released on the Switch that I went to. Like Sonic Forces, Mario Odyssey, Smash Bros. Ultimate. I'm question marking that because I'm not too sure if it did. There was one for that, but it came out December, so I'm not too sure. It was just the Switch One basically opened me up as a gamer, as a streamer, as a gamer, and I found out what games I actually like. I did, and it opened me up to Nintendo as a whole. Yes, I had a Wii. Yes, I had a Wii U. I got a Wii for Christmas the year it came out. Got a Wii U the year it came out for Christmas. But but as I said, I couldn't buy games for those. I had to rely on my parents for games. And I didn't get games on release dates or anything like that. Majority of the time. If I ever did. And if I remember correctly, I didn't have a lot of Wii U games. But the Switch has basically been has helped me become who I am. From Amiibo collector to going to midnight launches until they fucking ended. The last game that was midnight launch in Australia at EB Games, might I add, was the Switch. So it was Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Sorry, that's wrong. Pokemon Sword and Shield. Got to remember it was before the pandemic. And I went to so many in 2017, 2018, 2019 just to pick up games, to play games, so to pick up my games to play. It was just ever so amazing. I do remember ringing around at EB because I remember at my local EB Games at the time that they were going to, that I heard EB Games were going to do 2 waves for launch. So for pre-orders. Launch for pre-orders for the Switch 1. And I had stopped doing wave 1. And I rang up to ask if mine was still wave 1. even though I pre-ordered October 2016. I remember going into EV game, ringing up EV Games, and I said, no, yours is Wave 1 still, and I'm like, alright. So I worked out Wave 2 was one that would, from a certain time and date, that anything after that would be Wave 2. So mine was secured, well in advance. They're not allowed to do that anymore, sadly. And I went in and pre-ordered titles from E3. Literally 2017 was the first or second year. Second year I watched E3. Literally second year I watched E3. And I went out straight after the Nintendo Direct and started pre-ordering games for the Nintendo Switch. That's how I pre-ordered Metroid Prime 4 back in 2017, and the Pokemon RPG back in 2017, which turned out to be Sword and Shield, and Kirby Star Allies. And I pre-ordered so many games throughout this. Got the Lost Circle, and I pre-ordered Bayonetta 3. Literally, I had Bayonetta 3 pre-ordered that was announced at the Game Awards. I went out and I pre-ordered it. I don't know whether that was Game Awards, whether that was whatever, but I pre-ordered that not long after it was announced. And it's like the Switch made me who I was today. With my content on all that. And yeah. So if it wasn't for the Switch, look at it this way, if the Switch had failed, I wouldn't have all this Switch content. And Nintendo probably would have gone completely. The Switch really helped Nintendo. And it helped me with my YouTube. Because remember, I traded in my PS4, I traded in my Wii U for the Switch, and I traded in my PS4 for the Switch, close to launch. And then I traded in my so basically the Switch was my only console for until 2019. So yeah. It was just amazing. So yeah. Thanks for joining me on this look back at the Nintendo Switch. If you've got favorite memories or games, I'd love to hear about them in the comments. This console really meant a lot to me, literally. Not just as a gamer, but as a creator. And now it's time to start a new chapter for the Switch too. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!